so much for joining us today. My name is Evan Wong. I am the co-founder and CEO of Checkbox. Welcome to another episode of our show, Go with the Workflow. We bring on legal leaders to talk about process improvement and how to run the legal department from a business sense as opposed to the legal sense. So I have here two very phenomenal guests that we work with very closely. I have Janine as Kirsten, the Senior Vice President and Chief Legal Officer and Corporate Secretary at ADI, Analog Devices. Janine is a phenomenal and visionary legal leader. I've met her and seen her speak on different stages before, and I was blown away by just how much she gets legal ops and innovation. She's taken companies in her past through IPO, acquisition, and may dabble in a little bit of yoga as well, if I get that right.
Yes. Very good. Yeah.
And we've also got Nikki Rahimzadeh. She is the LRO, that acronym we will dissect in today's session, but she is the LRO, Legal Risk Operations and Strategy Senior Director at Analog Devices, a fantastic partner, of course, to Janine. She's come from also a background in consulting for legal ops, been in legal ops herself, and was previously also a practicing attorney at some point. And I do remember, Janine, when we spoke years ago now, you were talking about finding a legal ops person that had that executive presence, that had that expertise. And then Nikki came in right after, and I could not agree more that she fits all of those or checks all those boxes. So I'm really, really excited to have these two today to chat with me. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad to be here, and you're absolutely right. Nikki was the right person at the right time, and we're thrilled to have her with us.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. That's right.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Yes, so happy to be here.
Amazing. Look, we're going to have a great conversation. We're going to talk about, like what are some of the business drivers for a CLO in looking at automation, self-help, AI is obviously a big part of legal work today. We'll talk about workflows. We'll talk about lessons learned. So there'll be a lot of great learnings and insights to go through. But I do want to start with something that has nothing to do with any of that, which is we know that, Janine, you love the performing arts. So we're going to ask the hardest question of today, which is for each of you, maybe Janine first. What is your all-time favorite musical theater show? And then part two, if your life at work was a Broadway show, what would be the opening number? What would it be called?
Okay. All right. Well, you're right. I'm a huge performing arts fan, and I love Broadway. I love musical theater. So it's hard for me to pick just one show. So I'm going to actually break rules right out of the gate, and I'm going to pick two. Okay. So I'll start off with my favorite modern show would be Hamilton. And I was really blessed to be able to see Hamilton with the original cast in Broadway when it first opened. And I love that show because I thought it was so groundbreaking, and it really did to musical theater what I think Harry Potter did to reading. So I think it was transformational in so many ways. So that would be my modern one. And then my classic Broadway musical theater would have to be Hello, Dolly. And that's mostly because I watched that show with my grandma on television over and over and over again when I would stay home sick as a child. So it has a place in my heart. And I was really lucky to be able to actually see the revival that was in New York a while ago when Bernadette Peters was playing the lead. And I just was crying when I was watching it because it was bringing back so many memories. And it's the only show I've ever been to that started with a standing ovation. The second she walked out on stage, it was amazing. So then what would be the opening number to the Broadway show about my career? That's a harder one. I was like, okay, it has to be something about lawyers, and probably would put it in on something about how much time I spend every day doing things that aren't about giving legal advice. So maybe the song would be something like, that wasn't in my job description. I think there would be tap dancing. There'd probably be a kick line, maybe a key change at some point. Yeah.
The key change. I love that.
The
Yeah.
epic, yeah.
I love that. And then what about you, Nikki? What's your favorite musical? And then
Th-
what would yours be for your personal
This
life?
really hard, Evan, because it changes. Like I remember there was a time when I would have said Beauty and the Beast, like in a second.
Mm,
But when in thinking about this, probably of all time, it's probably My Fair Lady. It's such a classic. My mom loves to sing the music, and she
mm,
would sing it to my kids, and they just like laugh and think she's out of
mm.
her mind. And so I think that that connection is probably the strongest, but love that show. Janine, I think I might sum up what your job would be. Anything goes. There, there it is in the career. Um, yeah, and I feel a little bit like that for myself too. If I had to sum up what my career would be, it has been a little bit of anything goes. As Evan said, I've kind of done a little of this and a lot of that, and it's been great and as intentional as it could be. But I think that I feel pretty strongly anything goes sums it up. Yeah.
I love
That's
that. I love that. Well, if you ever end up writing any of those musicals, please invite me. I would love to come watch a musical about your lives. That'd be fantastic. But for the people who have joined late, this is not a webinar on musicals. That we're now going to talk about legal ops. All right, if you're here for that. So Janine, maybe just to set the scene, like, can you provide an overview of Analog Devices as a company and LRO as well as a team for those of us who maybe are unfamiliar?
Yeah, absolutely. So Analog Devices is a US-based publicly traded semiconductor company. We've been around for 60 years, and we actually just celebrated our 60-year anniversary, and we heard a data point that it's 0.5% of companies out there make it to the 50-year mark, publicly traded companies. So we feel like we're in
Wow.
the elite group, and we're looking to hit our 100-year anniversary here in another 40 years. We've got 24,000 employees globally. We operate in about 40 countries around the world. We have a ton of products. We're in pretty much, if you look around wherever you're sitting right now, we're in those devices, whether they're your lights, your plugs, your switches, your heating and air conditioning system, your computer, all the fun things we carry around with us everywhere. We're all over the place. And we've got about 120,000 customers around the world. So it's a great place to be. We operate across a ton of industries, and right on the cutting edge, of technology. So it's a great place to be in an exciting time to be in the world of technology. And then in terms of the team, the LRO, that stands for Legal and Risk Optimization. So my oversight areas go beyond just legal. I also oversee global trade, government affairs, internal audit, compliance, and enterprise risk. So we've got kind of a broad group of people within our organization. I think now, Nikki will have the number more closely, but I think we're about 120 team members right now worldwide. About half of that team is in the US. We've got about 35-ish% of the team is in Asia, and then we have another, and the rest of the team is in Europe. So a broad group of legal and risk professionals working hard to really protect the brand and reputation of the company and help the business succeed in making good, informed decisions every day.
You know what's really fascinating to me and quite unique is you decided not to call the team like just legal team or risk team or legal and risk team. You purposely put the word optimization in there as part of the actual default team name, which I think really reflects how you think about legal and risk. And I remember when I saw you speak in 2024 at one of the ACC events, I remember a line that you shared on stage. You said, legal operations allows me to be more efficient with every dollar that the company gives you. Like you said that on stage, and that really stuck with me. So, Nikki, you're obviously leading the LRO ops team. So help us understand how you do that. Like, what does LRO ops do at ADI?
It's a broad remit, and I would say probably, and really, Janine is quite visionary. She won't say that, but she is. I can speak from experience in saying that, and so we are responsible for more than maybe kind of a smaller. More narrowly focused operations, just sort of run the day to day, keep the lights on kind of work, which of course is important. And of course we do it. But we are really responsible for bringing business intelligence and insights to the team that is grounded in data. We are using technology in order to do a lot of that. We are really looking at our processes across all of LRO, as well as the interfaces with our stakeholders outside of the LRO, in order to really kind of bring all of that back and tell the story to help enable our team to work better. And so that's kind of at the heart of it. To me, I take it all back to helping people, because that's really what it's about. But how we get there is really through the use of our data, our technology, our process, and all of those pieces kind of coming together.
I love that. That's super, super helpful. And so then let me ask you both a question. You can decide who goes first. But given that we're talking so much about ways of working, I wonder what each of your philosophies are on that when it comes to the delivery of legal services in a modern legal department. Like, what should people be striving for? What are you striving for? Obviously, the world is changing so rapidly with AI today as well, that I think the question around what should we be working on and how can we be working with technology as well becomes the forefront for people like the two of you. So I don't know who wants to go first, but like, what's your philosophy around how
Yeah.
legal work should be done and delivered?
Yeah, I'll go first, and then Nikki will give you all the details. But I mean, I think so my view is, and I'm on a mission, and I'll do this until the end of my career as a CLO, is getting the business away from viewing our function as a cost center. I truly 100% believe that we are business enablers and accelerators of the business. And everything we do as a team should be about helping our stakeholders and helping the business grow and succeed while navigating risk. So, you'll know, I talk to my team a lot about protecting the brand and reputation of the company. I don't talk about complying with law. It's about protecting the brand and reputation of the company. Complying with law is like, that's just table stakes, right? I mean, everybody has to do that. And except in that situation where the company may be violating the law, what we should be doing every day is educating and guiding the business on legal and risk topics and really supporting them in making really good risk-based decisions. And that may mean that at the end of the day, after we give them our guidance and we help them assess risk, that they take an action that is outside of our comfort zone, but that's okay, because businesses that don't effectively take risk as part of their day-to-day are often called bankrupt or out of business, right? I mean, so risk is just a part of life. And so, so that is really my philosophy. And so I want everybody on my team to be thinking about, how is what I'm doing right now helping the stakeholders succeed or the business succeed and grow?
I love that so much that I'm like literally stopping myself from leaping out of my chair. I subscribe to that thought very strongly, and I'm just I think a lot of experienced and the right types of people that are sitting in the CLO seat need to be that business partner, need to be that business minded, and to understand the role of legal advice and the risk, but the practicalities of business as well. So I love that. Nikki, what about you?
Yeah, it's interesting because hearing Janine say that, it's such a distinguishing point from people who are like more junior in their careers, where you see a lot of, especially junior lawyers, are like very risk averse because they think that's like the way to do it. So in terms of just, gosh, I believe that it's my role to, as I said, help our team be empowered and have the tools that they need to do things better. We are at this point of lawyers and compliance professionals and trade professionals kind of coming, the folks that are getting into this point in their career have now been in school with computers, I'm going to date myself, it's really bad. Computers and phones and access to information that, you know, senior leadership maybe didn't have when they were in school. And so you're getting a different generation of employees who are more seasoned when it comes and more comfortable with technology and even a little bit of data. But I am still, you know, really like beating the drum in terms of how can I help you use this? How can you leverage this? Let me show you and explain it to you. Maybe you didn't take a class in it. Maybe it's not something you've done before, but how can I help you learn and not just understand it, but actually embrace it and see the value in what we're doing to really help you do your work in a good way and in the best way possible.
I think even for people who are maybe technology native or quite good with it, the thing is everyone's so busy in their working lives that taking on new tech and even just changing the ways we work, even for the better, will take some effort. So I think the kind of way that you're talking about is important regardless. And I think we'll talk a little bit maybe about how to effectively do change management and things like that as well as we roll out technology. But that's fantastic. Janine, I have a question for you. You know, I know that when we met as well, you had just recently done like a bit of a work activity analysis. I think you did it together in partnership with Up-Level Ops, and that led to like a 3-year plan. And then as part of that, you did like customer surveys and asking them for feedback for how they felt working with legal and work distribution and all of that. And I think you came out the other end of that with LRO being a leader in innovation out of the entire analog business and became a bit of a role model for how operations is done across the company. I think that's a phenomenal outcome that I think a lot of legal teams and legal ops teams aspire to be that sort of that front runner in the organization, not just within the legal industry. So as the CLO, I assume that you had the benefit of being very close to corporate strategy and corporate needs. What problem or business strategy guided you towards even conducting such an analysis? What were some of the main findings that pointed you towards looking for something like Checkbox, like a legal intake and workflow automation tool?
Yeah, that's great. You know, it really all started with the very classic challenge, which is that, you know, our organization as part of the G&A broader structure is always challenged with having to do more with less, right? And what you know, my view was in the beginning was that our team was spending far too much time practicing at what I call the low end of their skill set, right? They were doing work that they didn't need to be doing, which was taking them away from doing that high value strategic advisor, business enabler work that I thought really is how our organization drives value. So you're right. We launched 2 things. We did a voice of the customer service. Really, that was kind of internal to our key stakeholders across the business. We did a work activity analysis to really figure out how we were working. And at a high level, what the data showed was kind of sad and shocking, right? It showed that, first of all, most people in the company, and this includes, remember, we went out to our key stakeholders, but these key stakeholders didn't really understand what our organization did and the value that we could truly deliver to them. And that, like I said, that was a bummer to hear from our stakeholders that we were engaging with every day, that they kind of really didn't understand what we do. And then it also demonstrated that we were just working incredibly inefficiently, and our work was fractionalized across many people, and that just was really diminishing our effectiveness, right? And so we were engaging in some cases, activities that were very decentralized, where we needed to centralize those so we could bring both efficiencies, but also consistency in how we were delivering support, right? People would get a different level of support out of one part of our organization than they got across the other organization. And there we needed to just centralize that stuff so we could have one voice, one culture, one way of supporting the business. And then in other areas, we were actually too centralized, right? I mean, so we were a very US-based team. I kind of shared at the beginning here about how we're more geographically dispersed today, but we were an entire US-based team. All decisions were coming out of the US, and that meant that we were grinding the business outside the US to a halt, right? Because they had to wait for us to come back online to answer questions. And so things were taking days when they should take minutes. So we started tackling those things with our people, process, and technology initiatives, and Checkbox really came in on the process and technology side. And I know we'll talk about this, but we launched a chatbot, which is still in a learning phase, but we had a big company-wide launch of that recently at our global technical conference. And we started working with some workflows. And really the goal there was to take that work, in some cases, really repetitive work or work that didn't require that human in the loop, and put those into workflows and tools. It allows us to get data and metrics. It makes it much easier for me to go and pitch my case whenever I can say, oh, we're spending, we did whatever, 360 contracts on the revenue side last year, and half of those were on small customers who probably should have bought on our T's and C's. Saying that I think we're doing too many contracts versus saying that, hey, this team is spending the bulk of its time doing work that they shouldn't have to do, because we should just tell that customer you're buying on our T's and C's so we can focus on the biggest revenue generating contracts. That is an eye opener for the business, right? So I think it really was tackling that. How can we do more with less, when what we want to do is have people really operating at the higher end of their skills versus the low end? And like I said, that's where Checkbox came in, because we knew that there were things we had to automate, and we knew we had to embrace AI, all these kinds of things. And so that's really what we were trying to tackle.
One of the things that you mentioned really piqued my interest, because you talked about sort of the low value stuff that people might be spending their time on, but then you followed that up with, it means that people can actually focus on the important high value work. And I think a lot of the times when people think about the ROI or the business case for these kind of things, we're too focused on maybe some of the time saving elements of, oh, we spend 5 minutes on this contract and we get to save those 5 minutes. But actually what's more impactful for the business, again, if you talk in cost, you'll be always seen as a cost center. You were talking about becoming a business enabler. Really, it's how do you shift those 5 minutes to now unlock the ceiling of, for more revenue or for more impact or better risk management for the business. It's really about reallocating attention and time to things that actually matter more, and that has a multiplier effect than saving the few minutes on low value tasks. So I really like that.
No, I mean, and I just to kind of put a period on that sentence, I think I talked to my chief financial officer and I said, look, the reality is that when you get to this organization, I'll just use the legal side of our house for as an example. Lawyers are some of the most expensive G&A professionals, if not the most expensive G&A professionals that a company hires. You do not want those expensive G&A resources answering frequently asked questions, negotiating low value contracts. You want them out there embedded in the business, guiding the business on the most critical strategic topics, you know what I mean? And you want to lever them to be able to do that. And that's what tools like Checkbox help do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that when you sort of came to the realization that you needed a tool, you needed a workflow tool, an intake tool, you went through a very long, we were part of it, multi-month long evaluation of multiple vendors, and there was a lot of due diligence across a lot of capabilities and use cases and the like. Like, what were you looking for some of the people who might be listening in and considering a solution like this? Like, what were you looking for in a solution? And then why did you ultimately choose Checkbox as being your partner as well? Nikki or Janine, either.
Yeah, I'll start and Nikki, you can finish. I mean, I think that for us, Nikki mentioned like we want to squeeze every bit of value out of our dollar. So we weren't just looking for a tool that we could plug in. We were really looking for a partner. And we wanted a partner, and you're right, we did. We took the time, because I think it's critical up front to establish what our needs were. We vetted a lot of companies that we thought that could happen. We had them come in and do a couple of rounds of demos. We sandboxed, and we ultimately selected Checkbox. And really, the qualities in you and your team, Evan, that resonated with us was you were willing to think outside the box. You were willing to partner with us and grow with us, because we want to execute with speed. And you were embracing AI. I mean, you think about our conversation started a couple years ago, right? So you were embracing AI early on versus taking a wait and see approach, which is something that we were seeing with some of the other tools and service providers out there, that they really wanted to kind of get the lay of the land before they dived in and dove in. And I think that sometimes you just have to dive in. So those were some of the things. And Nikki, I know you've more to add there.
Yeah, I would add, we definitely wanted something that was low code, no code, that we didn't have to always come back to the vendor or our IT team, something that was easy to work with. And so that was a critical decision point, and also something that we could really manage ourselves, that we can keep kind of internally. It gives us so much flexibility to change and add and tweak. And it's a lot that no one else on the team ever sees besides me and my team. But it's easy when folks can just kind of go in and make a refinement here and there, but that actually does improve things on the front facing side. So those were just two really, really important things that have definitely proved out for us.
Amazing. And just to bring it to life for some people, because I think particularly if people have never used a workflow tool, we talk about workflow, they're probably like, what is a workflow? And I know that when you were looking for a solution, you had like a list of, I don't even know, like maybe close to 50 workflows as different use cases. So maybe let's not go through all 50. But Nikki, if you could share maybe some examples of workflows that you've either already built in Checkbox or you plan to build, like walk us through some of them. And that might help some people on this call as well understand what do we mean by like workflow.
So that's a great question. So workflows that we have built a lot. And when Evan and I last talked, I couldn't remember them all. So I actually wrote some notes down, and I'm not going to go through all of them because we don't have all day. But so for example, when we have a new employee onboarding, there is our company level, of course, HR onboarding, but then there's very LRO specific onboarding pieces. So through this workflow, either the new employee, their hiring manager, really anyone can go in and request that they get access to our systems, that they get training, that they get subscriptions that they may want, that are relevant to their areas. So it's just a really easy intake. They come into the front door. It's a few clicks. It guides them through, and then we get them set up. And so it's much easier than living in email for all of that. Another good one is a lot of our matter management and e-billing requests. It's a number of workflows in one, with the behind the scenes, but for folks that want a new matter to be set up, we have a workflow for that. If they want to make a change to a matter, if they want to get a report out of our matter management e-billing system, they can go in. And again, it's very user friendly. It doesn't require training. You don't have to go out and do a session on helping people get through it. It's intuitive. So they go in, they put their request in, and it gets routed the right way. We take care of it, and they get their matter set up, and they get access to the report that they need. So those are a couple examples. One that we recently launched for outside of the LRO is the conflict of interest waiver request. That our process is that it has to be approved by our chief compliance officer. And so there is a workflow. The person comes in, it's very easy. And from what they see on the front end, it's no different than what they were doing before, which was this very manual, painful fill out a form, send it by email, no way to track it. It might get lost. This way they go in, it's very easy, it's automated, it gets routed through the process, it gets reviewed, and then it goes to ultimate high level approval. So that's another really great one. The last thing I'll say, because you said we could talk about things that we're going to do, is getting our outside counsel into that matter management, billing, reporting requests. As probably most folks in legal ops know, there's a lot of invoice questions, matter questions, invoice questions from law firms. So that's really high on our list to open it up to outside counsel so that they can then come in and be able to tap in to that very same process that our internal team uses.
Yeah,
Those are
our
some.
goal is to deactivate that LRO ops mailbox and have everything go through the workflow. We can't wait till that day comes.
I love that. I love that you added that last piece because maybe people don't realize like workflows don't have to just be internal. They can have interactions with external parties, like in this case, outside counsel. That's really helpful for people to see maybe the art of the possible. And also the examples that you gave, Nikki, are all like non-contracting related workflows. I think a lot of times when people think of legal, the first place they think about is like, oh, contracts, because that's so much of what we do, right? And when we talk about workflows, they're kind of stuck in that sort of pigeonhole. And I love the fact that you've talked about all these examples that are not even contracting related. So the ceiling's really, really high for this kind of stuff. Did you end up doing anything in the contracting space? I know that you had a CLM that was primarily a repository, and Checkbox was integrated with that. Like, what workflows, or how does workflows interact with a CLM or in the contracting world?
So, I mean, this could be its own session, of course. I will say, and Janine hasn't seen it yet, but we built out an NDA workflow because we are we are on a CLM journey. And so that process involves kind of, we're on a legacy system, and we are really very much wanting to embrace data and AI and really be able to advance and improve the user experience there. So right now, what we did was we built a very easy intake for that sort of happy path request, which most of our NDAs are not negotiated. They're straightforward. They're on our paper. It's not something, of course, that would require legal review. So in Checkbox, we were able to essentially build, like I said, that very easy. You don't need training. It's very intuitive. It's a very quick workflow that can just kind of be routed for signature. It's integrated with our e-signature solution, and that's it. So that's a great example. And again, because it is a very standard non-negotiated, that we spun up very quickly. So it's really been very, very cool. And I see lots of potential there.
Yeah, very cool. So if people are new to workflow, you might be thinking, how's it doing? It's back to what Nikki was saying. It's a no-code tool, so you can drag and drop and like custom build out all these different types of processes. But it's not just processes, because you've recently built AI chatbots as well in Checkbox. I think you called it the LRO bot. Is that right? Did I get the name right?
We call it Ask LRO, but yeah,
Oh,
that's our
ask.
LRO bot, but we call it
Oh,
Ask LRO. It's very cute.
Ask LRO. Okay, Ask LRO. I think there was a survey, and there were names nominated as well. So, but Ask LRO. Okay, and just recently, sort of 2 weeks ago, I think you had a big internal conference at ADI. It was called GTC, Global Technical Conference, I think is what it stands for. A lot of acronyms on this webinar. But my understanding is all of the engineers, because you're a very technical organization, all the engineers were at this conference, and LRO had your own little booth, and you were doing demos. Like, uh, walk us through that. How was it demoing something that you built? What questions were being asked with this bot? What questions can it actually answer?
So actually, one of the very interesting things, of course, here we are at this booth, like we're literally at a trade show booth kind of thing, trying to sort of be, out there and introduce ourselves so people can really get to know the LRO and understand what we do, because we want to really be, somewhat a resource for the company. And so we had some computers that people could come up and play around with our Ask LRO bot. And a lot of the questions, not surprisingly, were around IP, because this was a lot of engineers. So a lot of questions around who is my strategy committee? How do I find them? How do I file an invention disclosure? Who in the LRO do I need to talk to about a new patent that I want to file? And so and that was the audience. So that was very expected. And we were very excited about the responses, and it's definitely been a journey. I mean, it has been, in all transparency, it's been a lift, understanding and really learning what you have to put into the back end to get those answers. but we're really happy about it. And I would definitely consider it a huge success. People kind of did oh, well, that's kind of helpful. Maybe I'll use this again. And that's what we were looking for. And so that it was just really cool and exciting. I was very nervous about putting something out there to a bunch of engineers, software engineers, very, very bright, sharp folks, but it was really, really cool. Yeah.
It was great. And we're looking to do digital signage around our company to bring that to the people who weren't able to go to GTC. And it's just it's a path of continuous improvement, and the bot's still learning, but it's learning at a faster rate, I think, especially with all the data and input we got from GTC. So it was actually a win-win for us too, because they didn't know it, but they were helping us train. So
That's amazing. So where do the people in the business go to find this bot? Do you deploy this in like a intranet portal? Like where does it live?
It's, as Janine said, it's very cute. We did kind of make it a character. It's very easy and prominently placed on our intranet site. And so you can either go right to Ask LRO, you can go to the front door and get to Ask LRO. We really tried to make the interface kind of right out there, very engaging. We are going to be launching it in Teams. It's actually probably going to be ready. It may be ready today. It may be ready later this week, but we're going to have it there so that folks can just go, because we are a team shop. So people can go right into Teams and access it that way, because we want to meet people where they are. Even though the circuit, that's our intranet site, critically important. We put a ton of content out there. Teams is just where people are. So it's just another way to make it easy for folks to come to us.
Yeah. So our teams at Checkbox, we have teams. It's confusing because the word is teams, but our Microsoft Teams has our Checkbox bot also baked into it as well. So it's definitely a great place for people to go. I think I just saw a question pop up. I think someone was asking like how do you feed or train the bot on the information?
So we take it from our subject matter experts, which is kind of like starting with our leadership team, cascading down. So we really work with them to essentially curate the content so that anything and everything that goes in there is precise, accurate, it's been validated. We really feel very confident in the content. Which is why, as Janine said, it's still learning. And this is it is a continuous improvement journey, because everything that's in there, we want to make sure that we're giving people the right answers, the right responses. And so that does take effort. It does. It takes time and effort. I would say, I wish I had known that, because I think in terms of expectations, it's really important that the team understands that we are building this. It's not wave a wand. And so it's really only as good as the information that's out there. And so we really are working with our team to get sort of the content from them so we can get it into the bot.
Got it. And there's another question has popped up asking about, does it train on internal data, or does it train from the www, the World Wide Web as well? In this context, it's just ADI or your specific organization's data, right? So it's not going to hallucinate and give you policies and regulation that's sitting outside in the outside world. It's fully controlled in the way that it learns.
And we're retaining the data. And we're retaining the data. I know that was part of that question too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Perfect. So then I want to talk a little bit about outcomes. We've already started to talk about the GTC as being a sort of a milestone, a win. What are some of the outcomes that you're already seeing from, again, just whether it's AI or the workflow side, but you had a vision for decentralizing access to legal globally, but centralizing the way that perhaps delivery of legal services is provided. Have you seen some of that play out already? What are some outcomes that you're already seeing or plan to see as well?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll say that, we've been on this journey where there was a lot of data collection in the beginning, and we're kind of really, I think we've reached the point of pivot and acceleration on the team. We had a lot of people who weren't true believers in the beginning, but those are few and far between now. So, and you used a phrase earlier, which I laughed because we use this phrase at ADI all the time. What I'll say is that Checkbox and other tools we're using is helping the team see the art of the possible, right? And it's how these tools can really clear away some of the day-to-day interruptions and lower value work that they're doing. And it's been a journey, but I think that they're now seeing the true value of the tools and the quality, and that really, I think that some people, their value was, oh my gosh, I accomplished a mountain of work today. But their value is not, I accomplished a lot of work today. It's that I accomplished quality work today. And so I think that there's a shift in mindset where people are starting to see that the true value they bring to the team and to the company is the quality of what they're doing every day. And so being able to have some of this stuff taken off their plate, focusing it into tools, focusing it into our really high-performing ops team allows them to do this most important high-value work that I talked about, gets them back up to the top of their license. So I think we are kind of more at the early stage, and we're still driving to get uptake across the team. But I do think that why I say I think we're at the pivot point of acceleration is, we went out at GTC, we demoed the chatbot, where Nikki talked about this NDA workflow tool. We process hundreds of NDAs a month. So I think we're going to start to see a much larger intake, and particularly as we get to launch some of these workflows with our outside stakeholders, I think that that's going to drive more uptake. And then what's happening is people across the company, you talked about being kind of a leader in terms of technology adoption. I challenged my team that even though we're at a tech company, even though we are outnumbered by engineers here, many to one, hundreds to one, it doesn't mean that we as a team can't be innovators. And so, I think that there are other functions across ADI that are like looking and seeing what we're doing, and particularly when there's budget constraints and things like that, they're like, oh, you have this tool. I wonder if we could use that tool. So I think that that's what we're starting to see. And so I had told my team at the beginning of this year that I thought that 2025 was going to be the year where as a team, we're really operating and firing on all cylinders under our kind of new operating model with the tools and resources. And I absolutely believe that. And so I think, we've been kind of chugging along and every month's gotten better, but I think we're at the point where you're going to start to see more of a hockey stick uptake on some of these tools across not just our team, but the company as a whole.
That's so exciting. Nikki, what about you?
Yeah, it's a little bit of where I think before we launched, it was really, really conceptually challenging for people to wrap their heads around it. Evan, like you said, workflow, do people know what that means? Even the word process is kind of scary for folks. And so when we would go and talk to them and ask them, I don't think it was tangible enough to understand it and get it and see it. And now that they're starting to see, oh, this is what they meant. This is easy. This is fast. I can do this. And then I don't have to go through 7 rounds of back and forth over email or go searching in files for things. And I think once you give people a little taste of how it can help them, they start to get a little momentum there. And I'm hoping to really just build on that. That's the plan.
And I think that goes back to, that phrase again, art of the possible, right? Because it's hard to see it until you see it. And so I think that also maybe dovetails into my next question, which is around like having gone through this journey for AI and automation and implementing these now, what are some of the lessons that you've both learned throughout this journey? I know change has been a big topic that we've discussed before, and just getting something out so that people can see, the first kind of example, and then sort of the rest kind of snowballs out. But yeah, share with us, like, what are the key lessons, advice that you would give, I guess, for people who are also embarking on this journey?
Yeah, I'll just say 2 things, and then I'll let Nikki weigh in. I think number one, you do the legwork you have to do in the beginning. What the worst place for you to be is to go out and try to do something from a technology perspective and fall on your face because you didn't do your upfront homework on what you really needed. And what you want is you want to win. You want to win not within your own team, but across your business. You want to know that when you launch something that you've invested time in, that it's going to be successful. So don't underestimate and definitely do the work up front. And then the other thing that I'll say is Nikki kind of joined us when we were already on our journey. And oh my goodness, thank goodness she did, because we started to really accelerate our success after she joined. In the beginning, I think I underestimated the incredible power of effective change management and communicating, over communicating. And I told you that we had people who were not true believers in the beginning, and for a long time it just felt like there were a couple of us that were just dragging the rest of the team along on a journey. And once we got in and we started to really go out to the team with regular operations updates, Nikki kind of going out, educating people, running training sessions, really showing them how this was going to help them. That's when we started to see a huge acceleration in excitement around these tools and what the future could hold. So that would be the two big lessons that I think I've learned, and I'm happy that we're more well positioned on the path now.
And I would say consider your resources, and by resources, I'm talking about humans, but I'm also talking about financial resources, because of course that's also part of what I do. But financial resources, but also time and effort is a resource. And so when you're thinking about how you're going to do this and what you're going to do, where can you cultivate all of those resources? And you may have to get a little creative and scrappy, so don't be afraid to do that. And also think about what is the return going to be, because that's how you make your business case, and that's kind of how you sell it. And it's never too soon to start thinking about that. Even you should start the change management well before you implement anything. Socializing it, you can never do that too early. So I would just say, yeah, I mean, start that out of the gate as soon as you can. Be mindful of all your resources and plan ahead.
That's great. And I don't know if you guys can see, but there's emojis of like party poppers going off as you give advice. So I think the crowd likes what you've shared here. Yep, there it goes off again. Thank you, whoever that is. We appreciate the love. To bring us home on this discussion, it's been a fantastic conversation. To bring us home though, Janine, Nikki and I keep saying throughout this entire webinar how visionary you are. So I'm going to put you on the spot. What excites you about the future, and what will LRO at ADI look like 3 years from now?
All right. Well, so it probably won't come as a surprise for me to say that what excites me the most is the possibilities with technology. So I think in 3 years from now, the team is fully leveraged with cutting edge technology, the stuff that they need to truly do their work effectively and at the highest level. And routine matters are handled through process. I think more compliance is automated across the company. I'm not just talking about our compliance efforts. I'm talking about the whole company efforts. Compliance is automated. Investigations, audits, legal reviews, we are addressing those by responding to push notifications, because there's robust data out there that is helping us identify trends early, and those trends or those pockets of risk are being proactively identified to us versus us learning about them the first time when either somebody outside of our company tells us about them or there's a whistleblower claim or something like that. So we are truly a proactive team, seeing around corners, doing the things that I think we are uniquely positioned to do best. And then, of course, my dream is I walk down the hall and everybody's truly embracing me as a business enabler and accelerator. And that's how they feel about the whole team. They're like, oh my gosh, where is our LRO business partner? They need to be here at the table right with us, because I can't do the things I'm trying to do without them. So that's where we are in 3 years. And I
Wow.
feel confident we're going to get there.
Absolutely. In 3 years, the entire LRO team will have very sore hands from all the high fives that they're getting down the hallway as they walk.
That's right.
Uh, that's amazing. I love that. Well, that brings us to the end of the conversation for today. I really enjoyed the conversation. And for the people who have been following us along, you can see why these two are such superstars and superpowers in what they do. I'm extremely grateful and privileged to be able to work with both of you and be on the journey with you. And with that, I think this particular act ends, the curtains fall, the crowd standing up, standing ovation, and you take a bow. So thank you so much, Nikki and Janine, in joining me in today's conversation. And thank you to everyone else who came along and listened in as well. Thank you, everyone. Have a fantastic rest of your day. And
thank
Janine
you so
and
much
Nikki
for tuning in to
soon.
this episode of Go with the Workflow. If you found it valuable, you can subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app like Spotify or Apple Podcast. Also, please consider giving us a rating or leave a review, as that really helps other listeners find the podcast too. That's all for now, so we'll see you at the next episode.